early on in my career, like maybe my first couple of years, this kind of seed and it kind of got implanted in me about starting my own school one day. Really that self-doubt and that very human, finite mind of ours was like, how would I even ever begin that? The more that the word rigor set in and standards began to get written, and it was like, okay, we really want children to be at this level, kind of forgot about brain research and brain development. And it was like, no, we need to do this. I think home is the bedrock. You are your child's first and foremost influence and the most important one.
Yeah.
No matter where they are educated academically, you have to be that discipleship at home.
Hey, and welcome to Winning Conversations. We are so glad you are here. Today, I am excited. I have the honor of sitting down with Courtney Hester. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I'm super honored.
Yeah, we've had you and your husband on at the beginning of season 2, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We did Turn the Tables. Yes, and it was really great. So I will encourage people to go back and hear your story and how y'all got here and stuff. But today we have a different topic to talk about. I'm very excited about it. You are the head of school and the founder of Rooted Christian Academy, right?
Yeah.
And that is hosted here on our proproperty.
Yes.
For the time being. We're excited to do that. So I just wanted to sit down and hear about that journey, what it was like, how did it start?
Absolutely.
So
this is a dream that's been 20 plus years in the making. And I'm sorry if I get teary-eyed. It hits me sometimes when I talk about it in ways that I don't expect, in the moments I don't expect. Because it's cool to look a vision in the face, like see it come to fruition, or like when you're a couple times in my life been able to like really look a miracle in the face that God, or a work that God's doing in my life. And it's so surreal in the moment. But this vision really started many, many years ago. So I, right out of high school, went into college, knew from the time I was very little, I wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
And toyed with the idea of doing business or something else kind of in high school. And then after my first job working in office, very quickly realized, oh no, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I need change. I love kids. I love creativity. Doing mundane tasks over and over again, just not my thing. So knew after high school, I wanted to go into education. So I did, went into college and powered through that and got my degree and immediately started teaching. And loved education and loved teaching, but knew that just the system in which I was teaching in had a lot of things to be desired as far as really reaching kids the way I knew we could and we should. And so early on in my career, like maybe my first couple of years, this kind of seed and it kind of got implanted in me about starting my own school one day. But it really was like, yeah, that would be great if it can happen, but never really did I put plans on paper. And really that self-doubt and that very human, finite mind of ours was like, how would I even ever begin that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like where do you get the finances? Where do you get the property? Like how are you even allowed to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's so common though. I mean, people like you have this dream drop in and they're like, that doesn't even, how do I even wrap my head around doing something like that? Yes. I understand that.
Yeah. So it just stayed planted deep inside, and I just went on and continued to teach. I taught in public school for 15 years. Okay. Before really felt this deep shift happen, and this like just God really pulling on my heart that it's time for it. This door is closing. It's time for a change. And really at that time focusing on my son. He was 3, going into like pre-K age, and it was like just the nature of my job time. It was a lot, and I woke up one day and I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to turn in my resignation at the end of the school year. And he went, excuse me?
He's like, oh.
Oh, okay. But I was like, just pray with me about it, And it just was time. I just knew, that door closed. And when I went to turn it in, there was no hesitation. There was no what happens to my position. That door definitely closed. And still, really no thought of, it was a really time, it really was a time just to step out and trust the Lord. My identity had been so wrapped up in being an educator. And it's like, okay, what now, Lord?
Yeah.
What now? And I just really needed a reset, time to focus on being a mom, focus on Christopher, and really just took that time. I took a year, and it was like, okay, Lord, what is next for me? I don't really know. And I knew it was still, if I had a career, it was still going to be something in education. I feel deeply that's my calling. That's my gifting. I love children. Yeah. I've been in children's ministry along with education, and I just trusted him and came across, as Christopher started kindergarten, it was like, okay, it's time for me to get my feet back wet, but still having him as the priority. So looking for something part-time, I found this wonderful part-time position as a pre-K teacher at a private preschool in Fort Worth, and turned out to be just a dream job. It allowed me the hours to still be primarily focused on Christopher, but I still got to teach. Yeah. And actually, I fell in love with education and teaching all over again. What a blessing. And then it reignited and kind of sparked this, kind of that seed that was deep down in there. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I love this. And what if this could be this philosophy of education, this nurturing of children and allowing them to develop and grow at their pace and play and do all the things we know about brain development. Because part of working in early childhood is you really get entrenched in understanding human development and growth and development and brain development, which I'm fascinated by all that. And the thoughts really started to settle in about could it even be done? Take this model and put it with olders, and really just see not just the littles, but see this go up. And the longer I did that, the more parents started begging. They were like, can you please extend this? Or would you move up and teach kinder? Will they let you do that? Because we're not finding anything that matches that we feel is going to allow our kids to thrive like they've been thriving here. And so that seed kind of sparked. And
it's funny that we have this really great play-based understanding of preschool education, learning those basic sounds, the basic letters. But then we've even seen it in our kids' lives. Once they transition to that elementary age, sometimes it's like, okay, get your books out. Yes. Why? I wonder why. Do you know why that philosophy changes so a 180? Okay, now you got to write this essay. You know?
I think it's a very complex issue, and it's very multifaceted. And you don't just see it in the public schools too. You tend to see, you can see it in private and charter. You see it across the gamut. It's a entrenched philosophy. And I think it just was this sense of, this is how we prepare kids. Let me back up. The more that the word rigor set in and standards began to get written, and it was like, okay, we really want children to be at this level, then it's like, well, we need to then do this, and a lack of understanding of brain development. And we kind of forgot as a whole, and I say we, I mean, as a whole educational system, kind of forgot about brain research and brain development. And it was like, no, we need to do this. And as times changed, and even as we've learned more and more about human development growth, it's not always translated into the big school systems. And then the other part of that is when you've got large classes, and it's hard to do that.
Yeah. 20 kids is a lot harder to get there. Yeah.
And I even think what we really see in the play-based, I'm going to call it a movement, in early childhood, even just in the last 5 to 8 years, it's because they've started really listening to the brain research, and they have the freedom to try new things and step outside the box. Some of those freedoms aren't always offered or available in your larger school systems, like I said, both private or public. And that's so, because even when Christopher was in preschool, his preschool was trying to get him school ready, and it wasn't that model. And I saw it wasn't conducive. He was very frustrated. He didn't like going. And that was, a benefit of taking off and being with him. But I've seen, since being in that environment, that preschool, I'm seeing the movement take on more and more. So my hope is that we see it go up. But I think a lot of that is just embracing the research and being willing and having the freedom to try it, to step out.
Right. And I wouldn't knock the bigger schools that are stuck in the, there's like a big ship that you have to turn.
Right. And it can be slow.
Well, in school, at least in America, at
Yes.
least public school has become a safety net, like a social safety net
Yeah.
in some ways, because it just makes sure all the kids get 2 meals a day and
Right.
makes sure kids at least know these basic things. And so
Yes.
sometimes they're stuck not because they don't want to change, but it's kind of like it's a huge ship. You have to kind of
Yes,
turn
it's a
the
huge
whole
system.
thing. So I don't want anyone to think that we're saying that like we're poo-pooing any
Oh,
of that.
no,
We're
no.
just saying like there is a better way. And that's kind of where this heart came from,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Absolutely. And so during my time there, those seeds, that kind of vision started bubbling up. I started thinking more seriously about what would that look like? Is it even possible? Those thoughts, just God kind of reignited that in me. And then had a conversation with an acquaintance of my dad who works in and is a business entrepreneur in the early childhood space. And we started having conversations. And so then the reality of, oh, maybe I am qualified. Maybe I really could do this. Maybe there's people out there who would be willing to walk alongside me and support this. Long story short, he kind of became a catalyst in that. So us working together did not work out. And I really feel like that's not why God brought him into my life ultimately.
Yeah.
It was to be the catalyst. And so with conversations with him, I started developing brochures and thinking about curriculum. And it was funny because our human brain, we always try to make a plan. I'm a planner, so I like to have a
too.
plan.
Yeah.
So I started making a plan, and it's like, you start thinking about the finite things about, well, how would you fund it and how all these things. It's like, well, you could start with early childhood, build that up, and then add on. And it's so funny to always see, and it's happened time and time and time again in my life, where I will come up with a plan and God's like, not quite. Almost, not quite. Watch this.
Yeah.
And his plan is always 100 times better, way more
Right.
beautiful when we, allow him the space, right? And where we're not so rigid to say, no, we're gonna do it my way. Where I'm open to say, okay,
right.
God, I know you gave me the vision and we're responsible for walking it
Right.
out, but allowing him to put things in place. So anyway, and in fact, along this time doing that, an opportunity did present itself with this acquaintance. And I really had to pray and discern. It's like, is this the right opportunity? I was an assistant director at the time at the preschool where I was
Okay.
at. And it would have been a promotion, but there were a lot of things about it that just like, I don't know if that's, I didn't quite have that piece of, no, this is definitely the right door and the right
decision,
opportunity
yeah.
and the right moment. So I really prayed about it and had to really discern and align it with, okay, yes, this is an opportunity, but is the right one? Is it putting me towards really where I'm headed? But not just that, does it still allowing me to be the mom I want to be available, all that stuff? And it just wasn't the right timing. It wasn't the right opportunity. So I did have to turn that down. And I've been thinking about that a lot as you asked me to come on the show and how important it is. And that sometimes, I think God opens doors and does things in our lives in a lot of different ways. In my life, there's been times where I've heard an audible, clear message from him. And there's been times where it's more of just this feeling of peace. And then I know
Yeah.
that's what it is. And then there's been times where multiple doors have opened and I've really just had to discern.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what, and really use just wisdom in that. And so I think that's really important that there's not any one way. I think that God speaks to us or
I agree.
leads us in different ways.
Yeah.
It's a lot of different ways and you just have to, that's where that personal relationship
Right.
comes.
So true.
And
And
having
being
that
able to
faith.
trust him that like, even though these doors, I might have 3 or 4 doors open for me, trusting that he's going to put you in the right one.
Yeah.
And it's just human nature to look at all of them and
Yeah.
examine all of them and like do the pros and cons thing. But that trust that you had, like, I know there's something bigger on the inside of me.
Yeah.
I know there's something that you're birthing. I'm going to just walk through the doors that
Yes.
I trust you to
Yes.
guide me to. I know we had our old pastor said, it's really hard to move a parked car.
Yes.
And it's hard for God to give you advice. But if you're not moving forward,
Right.
if you're in park, it's real hard to guide that car in the direction
Yes.
you want it to go. But when you take it out and say, okay, God, I'm taking some steps, I feel like, at least in my life, the steps line up.
Yes.
Like I know what to do next, not as an audible voice, like you said, but like Like
The
I've heard,
intuition, yes.
I've heard you clearly.
Yes.
And then there's peace all along the way. It sounds like that other one didn't give you that peace.
It didn't, right? Yeah, and I really had to examine some things. And but what's really interesting is then that was like in the spring of that year. In June of that year, unexpectedly got promoted to director at the position where I was at,
Oh,
which
wow.
again I love. And ended up with an amazing mentor in my life. My supervisor is a church-based preschool. And just the amount of things I learned and to really thrive there. And I really felt in that moment, like, okay, this is my training ground. This is my season. And really at that time is like, I'll be here for another 5 years, 7 years, 8 years. In fact, my supervisor, she's like, okay, I'm going to retire in 7. I hope you're here for the full 7. She's like, that's my plan. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I will be here as long as God calls me to be here,
Right,
you know,
right.
and really I'm super happy, super thrilled. I was, you know, learning and growing and thriving and charged with, I felt so just honored that the Lord trusted me and put me in a position to steward that preschool, and I had a staff of 24 amazing women who I loved working with and being able to guide and steward, and then the 100 and something children. So it was
Right.
amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, it was great. But then
How did we get here?
how did we get here?
Yeah.
So fast forward a couple of years, and last fall, I received a call from someone here in the ministry, and just started asking me questions about, hey, I understand that you might have a vision for education and
Right.
school, and I see there's a need, but I really just want to start having a conversation about your philosophy of education and what you
Right.
believe and what your vision really is. And it was funny because one of the first questions, she goes, well, are you happy where you're at? I was like, actually, yes, I am. I'm thriving.
Yeah.
But I knew it was for a season. I knew
Yeah.
that it was training ground and it was for a season. And so multiple conversations that happened, started on the phone, ended up in person. A lot of good questions asked, and I would go and research and think, and we'd write things down, and we'd come back and have more conversation. And then in about January, we took that conversation to pastor and
Pastor
just
Justin.
said, hey, is there an opportunity for this vision to come to fruition here?
Yeah.
Is there space? Is there, you know, how do you
Right.
feel
What-
about that?
Yeah.
And he said, absolutely, got on board. And it's because we see a need in our community
Yeah.
for another space. And it may not be the right time or the right spot for everyone, but for those that it is, we want to be that opportunity and that place. And we see that there's and if you just look at statistics, the trend of families looking for smaller alternate forms of education,
Yeah.
especially in Christ-based environments, is exponentially growing.
It is.
And so to be another space and to be
Yeah.
another opportunity.
Especially since the pandemic. I
Yes.
think that opened a lot of people's eyes to, oh my gosh, there is a different way to educate.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a different way.
And I think there's a lot of right ways. I don't think there's
I agree.
one particular right way. I think there's a lot of right ways. And so we sat down with Pastor in, I think, first part of February. And it was like, okay, we're really like, are we doing this? And then if we are, like, we're fixing to fast track this because like open enrollment everywhere starts now
Yeah.
in February. We'd love to say something by March, and then we got to be ready to open doors in August. And it's, you know, there was part of me was like, this is awfully fast. I don't know. I hope, but just still trusting. And I had this peace all along that God, you're going to work this all out, you know?
Right.
And what was cool to see at that point of, okay, to think back over the last several years and all this long story I just went through about how he was laying the groundwork in me
Yeah.
and bringing catalyst along the way. And back when I started putting things on paper, that was really my mindset of, I want to be ready when the door does open.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Right.
And so I didn't have all the answers, but a lot of them, a lot of the
Right.
foundational pieces, you know,
Right.
who I wanted or what I wanted as a school, who I wanted our identity to be, you know, how, and
Right.
all of those things. And then this summer, it's been a fast track of laying all the very finite details
Yeah.
into place.
Finite but essential details,
Yes,
right?
very,
you know,
very-
you got to have secure funding, and you got to
Yes.
have teachers, and you got to have
Yes.
space, and
Yes.
So-
And that's very cool how God just brought teachers into us to one of our older teacher. I taught with her back in public school, and she was the first one who came to mind when we started having this conversation back in the fall. And I called her up and just said, hey, here's what is transpiring, and I would love to pick your brain, and I would love for you to be involved if you can, but if not, at least just offer me maybe some mentorship, some guidance, because she has taught multi-age, private, public. I mean, she's done
The gamut.
the gamut of everything, and I respect her as an educator. I watched her, teach and just stayed in awe of her. And after our first conversation, she said, I'm in. She said, the timing on this is amazing. This is exactly this is what my teacher heart believes in and wants to do. And I want to be a part of that. And so she came alongside me. And then she happened to be out about and ran into another colleague of ours. And they got talking, and she's like, that sounds amazing. She's like, tell her to call me. And so we had a long conversation, and that's my other teacher in primary. So actually, and what's really cool about that is when my first job in public education was actually as a para, because I was finishing up my degree, and it was for her. I was her paraprofessional.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
What a full circle
What
moment.
a full circle. Yeah. She's like, wow, here we are back. I'm working for you. But again, doing things teaching in a way that we love and believe in, and really pouring into children and watching them thrive.
Yeah, and right now you have 2 classrooms.
We do. We have 2
it's like
classrooms.
olders and youngers, correct? Yeah.
So we opened it and not really knowing, who's going to come, who wants to be a part. And so we set it up so that we would be able to do like primary and then intermediate. And what's been funny is that we've actually enrolled pre-KK1 is what we have at the bottom, and then 5, 6, 7 is our top end. So we got our 2 ends.
You got the 2 ends.
Yeah. And so next year we'll really talk and look at, okay, how do we accommodate the middles even better?
Yeah.
But it just worked out. So we have,
and then 8, 9 students.
We have 8 students.
8 students.
Now, yeah.
That's great.
And so
how's
it's
the
fun.
how's the year going so far?
Good.
I mean, we're like a couple weeks in.
Yeah. So we're right in I can't even believe we're almost done with our 3rd week. It's flying by already. But going really well. The children are bonding. It's like we're a little family, especially
wonderful.
being really small.
Yeah.
And so it's fun. I mean, we're just having a blast. The kids are learning so much in a small environment like that. The amount of things they get to learn, it goes so fast. But it's also been fun to watch our olders reignite like that childlike play in them and love. And I've seen it in my own son, and I've talked to other moms that they're seeing their children come home and like rediscover their Legos or rediscover their Hot Wheels or want to come home and play and go outside. And so that is, I think, an unexpected plus that we're seeing that I hadn't thought about.
The olders are coming back to that educational play, which is how we learn, which is really
absolutely.
How we all learn.
And we've had opportunities for our olders to actually kind of mentor and partner up with our littles on occasion. And that's, I think, part of what's reigniting that. And they love it. But getting to, really be leaders. They're getting to walk that out.
That's neat. That's neat. I'm just thinking about parents that might be listening and saying, well, that's not an option for our family, right. Or we're in this really, this is a place we're doing at homeschool. And would you just speak to what you see quality education looks like for any family,
right?
Specifically, we're talking in a Christian context.
Yes.
So we're talking about what does a Christian home look like that educates their kids well, no matter how they choose to do it.
Right. No matter where they go to, right? Yeah. How they get their academics.
Right. Yeah.
For sure. So, I think home is the bedrock, right? We even say here at Rooted, we're coming alongside you to partner with you. You are your child's first and foremost influence and the most important one.
Yeah.
And so I think it does start at home. The discipleship starts at home. And when you build that foundation for your kids, whether they're learning at home with you, they're at a private, charter, public, because there's lots of options, there's hybrid programs, all kinds of things.
So many, yeah.
No matter where they are educated academically, you have to be that discipleship at home. You lay the groundwork for their faith and, their discipline, their character, all of that starts at home. And so the parents to set that example up, constantly have those conversations, worshiping together, valuing church time, and it can look a lot of different ways at home, whether it's devotionals or just having open dialogue and conversation and building that biblical worldview through everyday conversations, and modeling the kind of character and instilling that you want in your kids. Then they have the foundation to really, be a light wherever they go to school and to stand on the foundation that you have laid as parents. And I think, as far as education, every child is different. Just like every person is different. God has made us each unique. And so I think too, families have to make that decision for where they are in their season as a family, who their child is as a person, how they learn. And so I think there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of factors that parents have to decide too, as far as where and how they're going to educate their children.
We tell our kids a lot that we're still your primary teachers no matter where you go to school at. And so there's a scripture that set me free, and right now why I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's Old Testament. It talks about in your coming and your going, in your waking and your cooking, and all these places that you are, speak to your kids about my word, speak to your kids about what we're doing. And so as a working mom, because I work out of the house. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I've really taken that scripture to practicality. So when we're in the car, we're talking about these things. We had a conversation about compound interest the other day in the car. And, and then, they'll hear something and be like, well, what is abortion? And so then we have a conversation about, well, this is what it looks like. This is what it means. This is why people are on this side, and this is why people are on that side. And we go to the grocery store and tell me which of these two mayonnaises is a better deal. I know this is the bigger one, but is it, let's look at how much it is per ounce. And so those type of moments, that's not in school, but that's teaching your kids.
Absolutely.
And here we're driving down the road and we see an ambulance. Well, let's stop and pray. So you're teaching your kids to be part of what you're doing in your daily life.
Absolutely.
That set me free. And it made me free to be able to hear God on where we do put them in for education.
Yeah.
What would be your advice for parents who make those decisions for their kids? How do you help them say, hey, look at what are you hearing from them? I guess what's your advice to parents who are searching for where to put their kids? Maybe that's the best way to ask it.
Yeah, I think you have to look at a lot of things. Factors of they need to ask themselves, what do we value most? Like, what's important to us, and most. And then there's a practical aspect too. Are we working? Are we at home? Those different kinds of things.
Sure.
How involved do we want to be? Not, and you should always be involved in your child's education no matter where they go to school or whichever. But I just mean, like, what are you able to, because we have work hours. So sometimes too, depending on different programs, the work hours conflict with those hours.
Sure.
So just on a practical level, you do have to consider what's right for our family, what season are we in. But I would say too, you have to also look at what do you value most for your child? Is it, does your child... Am I looking for a small environment? Am I really looking for something that's more hands-on and play-based? I really want them to be around a lot of kids, different programs. There's not really one good answer. I really think parents have to seek that for themselves. They really need to ask a lot of questions. Like, what's important to us? And that's one of the things when we do an interview for families looking to come here. That's the first question I ask is, what's important to you? Like, what are you looking for out of your child's education? What are your expectations of us? And from your child, and because it's a partnership. No matter where your child goes to school, it's a partnership
for sure.
between you and that place. Or, and if you're at home, it's your family. This is something y'all are committing as a family to do. And so just really taking some inventory on that and then looking through, okay, what's going to be best, for us. And I think there's different seasons. I don't think that whatever is right for your child right now has to be what's right forever. Sure. I think it can change. I know for us, my son started in a private school, and a lot of it had to do with we moved, and it was our options at the time, and that was the better of the options before us. And the benefit of he was a young little boy who still needed lots of time to play, and so the program we chose was, a part-time academic and a part-time play. And it was like, that's what we're going to do.
That's exactly right.
And then the next year, the class was a little different, and it was becoming apparent, okay, this is not going to be best for him for the next season.
Yeah.
And we made a change. And the next place we put him was a public school.
Yeah.
he thrived there. And then here we are again, making another shift. We've made another shift. He's here with us.
Yeah.
And this season is what's right for him in his learning journey and what's good for us as a family.
Right.
And so I think that
our journey
can change.
Yeah, our journey is the same.
Yeah.
We had our oldest, he did, preschool, but then we had him in a public school for a little while. And then we found a great Christian school that we really loved, that we felt like God was opening the doors there. And then when those doors closed and we moved, now we're in a new school district, and that's the right place for him. And so we always tell him, it's school choice is soft. We're going to hear from God and we're going to walk it out. It sounds like that's similar to what y'all did with him.
Yes.
But every step of the way, there was like this undercurrent of, we are going to trust God with your education.
Yes.
And we're going to trust God with how we move forward with it. And now it's proven to be like exactly where he needs to be. And of course the twins, they're where they need to be also. What advice would you give to educators who are in the teaching space, who love the Lord and want to maybe feel that same inspiration to like, well, I'd really love them to blossom in this way. Like what advice can you give to them who are maybe in a system that doesn't see all of the things that you have wisdom on?
I think you have to be the light where you are. And so within the space that you're in and within the parameters that you have, to be the light that you can be. And, I found ways to do it when I was in public school. You can be a bright, shining light for those kids. And I think, at the end of the day, when you're in your classroom with those students, you know what's good and what needs to happen. And you can love, and if nothing else, even if you're not being able to, teach an academic an academic subject or skill the way you really want to, at the heart, if you can love those kids and pour into them and show them the love of Christ and just nurture them and encourage them, then that's doing a lot. That's doing huge.
We have some public school educators in our congregation, and I've had some conversations, and one of them was telling me, she's like, today in history we combed hair because a girl came in and no one had taught her how to comb her hair right. And so we combed hair, and she's like, I just loved on her. And that's developed into a relationship that she was able later to really share Jesus with her. So it comes to mind like, preach the gospel everywhere you go, and when necessary, use words.
Yes.
I want to say that's Smith Wigglesworth, but I could be wrong. But the heart of it is, even when you're in those environments, even if you're in a system that doesn't quite match your belief system as far as education goes, you can still make an impact for those kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know even when I taught in public school, there were still parameters in there. We were having to teach standard things, but I found ways to still make it enjoyable, hands-on. All the things I believed about development, I was able to tie all that in.
All that together.
And, honestly, in the end, people saw it and appreciated it. Those that I worked with, colleagues were like, there's a difference happening in that classroom. And so I'd say just you do what you need to do in that space.
And there are parents out there that have their kids in school systems, and that's what is the option available to them. Maybe that's the only option. And they're praying for educators to come out. Yes. And emotional too, because we pray diligently on what teachers have our kids. And every single year I feel like God answers that prayer because they're the right teacher for that child. They're the right person to be in that corner. We have one that needs the accountability, that needs the okay, we're going to hold you to the letter. This is the assignment, and you get to do it. Yes. And another one that is just absorbing everything, and they always seem to get the teacher that just loves them and that sees them for who they are and helps them go to the next level.
And I would say that for parents, wherever your child is at school, wherever they are, pray for the teacher, right?
Yeah,
support
absolutely.
the teacher, be a partner with that teacher, with that school, with wherever. Come alongside them because you're needed, and parents can make a difference in that space. And I know when you feel like you're one of this large system, because as a teacher, I felt that way. I'm like, I'm one in this very large system.
Right.
It makes a difference. Every one makes a difference. Just like in the body of Christ, each one of us has to do our part, because then together we make a difference. It's the same in the educational system. Each and every person makes their difference. And then as a whole, it makes a difference. So
That's
I would
really
definitely encourage parents to just, pray for their kids, pray for their teacher, and then be a partnership.
Yeah.
Find a way to get involved and to support however you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super cool that we have an opportunity to partner as a church with your Christian school. And we've had lots of questions, and I think we just see the vision of it growing. We see parents kind of getting ignited and like, even if they don't choose Rooted as a place to educate their kids, they at least have a vision that there could be something that's greater. There could be something more. So when you think about Heritage, we always talk about making winners in life, and you guys are doing that literally across the hall. You're making all these little precious kids winners in life. What does that mean to you to be a winner in life every day?
I think trusting God in the season you're in, and just following Him, walking it out, and just trusting Him each and every day. And we are truly honored for the church to have partnered with us in this way. They have provided the space. And not just spiritual support, I know they're praying for us and pastors checking in on us, but really supporting us with the space and allowing us to be here and to grow. And it's allowing us to be able to offer this to our community. Yeah. Otherwise, we, may not have been able to, or it may been harder for more families to be able to come and be a part. And so we're very thankful.
Yeah, we're thankful too. I think it's a great thing. I'm excited to see the next few years and see how God moves it and grows it and brings the right people along your path. So thank you again for sitting down and sharing, because I think there is a lot of wisdom in there for people who are in the education space and also parents to understand what God can do through you. Like, it's your number one calling. I mean, even with Christopher, y'all have really taken the time to say this is what he needs right now. So I hope people hear that. I hope people don't say like, oh, this is just a thing for it. No, this is about the whole scope of you as a parent and what you're doing with your child and making these great little winners in life.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. That's full circle. That's what we want. Rooted. We want them rooted and bearing fruit and being winners in life themselves.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. And thank y'all for watching. I'm so glad you're here. It's a very easy little commute for you to come over. We share the building with Rooted Christian Academy. And so we're just pleased to have you. Thank you for being part of our church family too. We love you. Bobby's a big part of the podcast team too, your husband. So we always appreciate all of his wisdom, and part of this wouldn't even be possible if he wasn't part of it. So anyway, I just want to encourage you to stay plugged in to the podcast. We have a few more months, and we're excited about what God's doing here. So check us out on Instagram. Of course, share this with somebody who's an educator or a parent in a place where you know that they could use some encouragement. So we thank you, and we'll see you next time.